I've been a fan of Francis Lawrence for a long time, and it was an opportunity to, check that off my bucket list. I thought I might not get another chance. The material itself is extreme. It's ultra-violent, harrowing, grim material, which sort of was out of my comfort zone, but I've realized over the years sometimes it's good to be pushed out of your comfort zone. And I started thinking, like, I have two sons who I knew would love it. I started out seeing a movie based on one of his books, Carrie, exactly, and would immediately read the book. I did that with The Shining as well. I saw the film first, went straight from the theater to a bookstore in Westwood and got the novel. But by then I was really hooked. I mean, I read Shawshank Redemption before the movie. I read pretty much everything I could get my hands on. I mean, he surprises you. The Body, for instance, which later became Stand By Me, was such a departure for him. I remember thinking, I wouldn't read his books during the day, like poolside. I wanted to wait till nighttime when the kids and maybe sometimes my wife would go to bed early and it was alone and dark and for maximum scare impact. So he's one of my favorite writers. Francis, I trust him. He's just not only a great director, but just personable. I've never seen him raise his voice. The atmosphere he creates on set is very conducive to doing your best for him. The Long Walk pretty much describes what the premise is, which is this walk where it's very regimented. You can't go over a certain speed, you can't drop below a certain speed, you can't sit down, all these rules. And basically, you walk until only one walker is left. And funny you should mention Cooper, because he didn't want to meet me because he was afraid he might like me personally. And I said, I respect that. I totally get it. I say at the end of the shoot, I'll have to make sure I say hello. I respect anybody's process, and if that's his, it's fine. And by the way, when he meets me, I guarantee you, he will like me.
It's always a script. This is a Stephen King novel. I think Stephen King is in the same way that Raymond Carver is to like the American short story, or Tennessee Williams to the American play. Stephen King is that to like a horror genre and ness of America, which I love. So there was that, and then there's like a really amazing script, and then you bring Francis on board and you bring Cooper. It's a nice thing to work with actors on special things. Shawshank is one of my favourite things of all time. I'm kind of that generation where those like old films are like the Stephen King films, the things that we really, really respect. So of course it's an honour to work on something that he's written. It's a story of brutality, it's a story of brotherhood, it's a story of, the things that we do for the people that we care about. And, The Long Walk essentially is a competition, and there has to be one winner. And if you slow down beyond a certain speed, you get 3 warnings. And after the 3rd one, you get your ticket, which is basically death. And I think, beyond the rules of the game, there's a deeper meaning as to what it is. Part of it is entertainment, and part of it is what the human condition can do. And I think that's what this film balances so well. It's a wonderful dichotomy. I have to definitely give some commendation to JT, our wonderful screenwriter, and Stephen King, and Francis, and the rest of the team, all at Lionsgate, for being open to kind of seeing this story slightly differently. And Pete is a wonderful character on the page. I read the script before I read the book, and then you look at the book and he's incredibly complex and all the things that I love in characters. But translating that to the screen requires a certain level of creativity, you know what I mean, and invention from myself, and stories that Francis would share with me and all that kind of stuff. It balances on Pete McGree's and Ray Garrity, and I think that relationship was everything to me. And the actor playing opposite me, I wouldn't be able to do my job if they weren't doing theirs. The Musketeers has just been a joy to find these boys, these lads, like finding the joy in this like slightly macabre, dark world. Cooper has given me everything that I need in Ray, but also everything I need in like just a mate. Cooper's an amazingly inquisitive, open. I like to find things, and Cooper just takes everything and throws it right back my way. And I've loved working with him for that. I can't speak highly enough of him. Mark Hamill is a legend. Do you know what I mean? There's definitely something amazing about having someone like him on set, you know, and taking part in this deeply strange story definitely lifts it. I'll be lying if I said it doesn't lift it beyond what myself, Cooper, and the other boys make. Mark definitely brings like this amazing groundedness to this film, and yeah, it's been great having him on set. The boys are amazing. Ben is amazing. You know, Charlie, everyone, Josh, everyone. Everyone's been like, we definitely get on offset as well, and we had to. We need to use every single moment we can to try and tell the best story possible, and luckily it came really naturally for all of us. I'm definitely in awe of Francis. I am, I can't even lie about it. I think he's a really wonderful, acute, sensitive director, and he's so receptive, you know, with the choices that I want to try, but as well as that, he's a master of what he does. He knows how to make things. You trust Francis, and I felt really honoured that he wanted to work with me as well. When Francis spoke to me about this whole project before I was even on board, it felt like this passion project of his. It's like, you know, Francis makes the Hunger Games, man. He makes like, you know, these like large films. This isn't one of those. I think it's a tiny film about bonding and brotherhood and like a deeper meaning of what America was. Costume is very important to me as an actor. Really important. What you wear, I think, informs how you move, how you talk, and play. And Francis was kind enough to let me choose everything, and our wonderful costume designer kind of set everything up in a room and said, go for it. And I just kind of went around and kind of went like thrift shopping, which was kind of fun, you know what I mean? Like finding things and trying it on and going, I don't think that works, I don't think that feels right, I think that's him. And then in our bags, I like choosing my own props. I was able to load my own bag with all my stuff, which was just, it's been a treat, you know what I mean? It actually has been an actor's delight. I think there's several shifts that you got to make. One, there's the accent, the actual Georgia accent, which is where Pete's from, or we decided that he is from, and then there's a cultural shift as well, because you know you can say something in an accent and it won't land if you don't understand the culture behind it, and then there's like who he is on top of that, his humour, his like wit, but also his pain. We're walking, you know, like 10 miles a day, you know, making this film, like giving ourselves this film. So of course we're going to get some war wounds. But if you ask me what my favourite bit about the film is that it's the details, these moments that we found as actors with each other, as a whole group, that are magical, like truly magical, truly deep and truly profound, which is definitely in Stephen King's novel, but to translate that onto the screen, I think we've definitely put some amazing moments on screen and given ourselves to it. So hopefully people like it.
I am a Stephen King fan. I read like when I was little, and I shouldn't have been reading his books then. I was reading like It and Carrie and Pet Sematary, and I just think he's an incredible writer. And he's so prolific, and his book On Writing, that's literally the name of it, On Writing, is, I mean, everyone in the arts, I think, should read it. It should be required reading. I wasn't familiar with The Long Walk, slightly before my time. It came out, I think, in 1979, and when I was doing some research about the novel, and Frances and I were talking about it, I learned that it was written in response to the Vietnam War, which made a lot of sense after I read the book, and I think is really kind of important story to tell right now as well. I met with Frances, and when we met the first time, I guess my biggest concern was the violence in the movie, and I was just curious like how he was planning on shooting it. I have a stepson who's really young. He's, you know, around the age of the boys in the movie, and it was like I just kind of kept seeing him in this. And so that was something that Frances and I talked a lot about. Ginny Garrity is a woman who works hard and loves her son and her husband. Ginny and Ray are really upset about their circumstances. They're very poor, everyone is very poor, everyone is in need, and I think she has been, when we meet her, she's been arguing a lot with her son to change his mind about signing up for this walk. The Long Walk is like, it's like the worst competition sport that I think anyone could ever think of, and it's crazy that Stephen King wrote this book in the late 70s. So The Long Walk is basically like all the boys in the country have to. They call it voluntary, but you basically have to sign up, so we're kind of imitating the draft. Have to sign up to be in this long walk. They choose one from each state, so 50 boys end up, in our movie, it's 50, end up taking this walk. You have to go at 3 miles per hour, you can't ever stop, you can't walk backwards, you can't lay down, you get 3 warnings, and after the 3rd warning, you get killed. Well, the cookies are his favorite. A chocolate chip oatmeal cookie. So I bake him these cookies to send with him on the walk to show that I love him, so he remembers I love him, and he's carrying a baseball that is something he shared with his father. It's all been very collaborative here. My scenes have really only been with Cooper Hoffman, who's incredible. I love him. He's wise beyond his years, but he's also a lot of fun on set. It's a really dark, heavy movie, so it's really nice when we are doing these scenes and they're really heavy, that there's like some levity between takes and stuff, and he and I have been laughing a lot and having a lot of fun. Frances is a real actor's director. I just feel like so supported. I feel like I can ask for anything, I can try anything. I feel like he's really loose and collaborative, and whatever we want to do and in some ways want to say, like, he's open to trying anything, and he really knows what he wants and he knows when he's got it, and that makes me feel really confident. I'm wearing my wardrobe right now. Heather is really incredible. She's kind of managed to find really special pieces that feel like the characters own them for a really long time, which in our story, my character Ginny she wouldn't have new clothes and she wouldn't have very fancy clothes, but she would take good care of the ones that she has. And I think because Heather's chosen, I think pretty much everything I wear is actually vintage, it really adds to the heaviness of the story. It makes a huge difference. I love Winnipeg. It's a really great place to make a movie. I would say you guys have all the things. You have it all figured out. And I would also like to add the Long Walk. The Walkers team, softball team, won the tournament of all the other movies in town. They all had softball teams, and there was a softball tournament, and we were undefeated. So, way to go. They're going to see great performances in a beautifully shot movie. And I hope it's the kind of thing that really sticks with them. I think that there is a story for everyone in this movie, you know, whether you're a parent or you're a kid or you're pro-war or anti-war, or I mean, I think there's a story for everyone here, and I think there's a reason why it's being made now as opposed to decades ago.
Shawshank Redemption that's an all-time classic. The Shining, Stand By Me. I feel like tonally this film has a lot of similarities with Stand By Me. There's a certain thing that Stephen King likes to tap into, which is the group of boys just shooting the shit while they're moving from point A to point B, and I feel like this movie is the ultimate version of that. It's like the most sadistic version of the televised Olympics or something like that, right? This is a contest that is sponsored by you know, the military government to once a year get a group of 50 boys who have to essentially walk until all of them are dead except for one. I mean, you can look at the premise and go, this is sort of similar to something like The Hunger Games, but in a way, it's the most distilled version of that. I would imagine, and you know, reading about experiences where groups of people have to endure something together in which survival is not guaranteed, you realize that it's inevitable that bonds will develop unless there's rules or there's, you know, external factors that prevent people from getting together. Humans are social creatures. I think even if the rules say you should be against each other, you know, you're going to make friends. You're going to try to make allies. You're going to try to do anything, I think, to get your mind off of just, you know, walking for the rest of your life. These are really well-written characters, you know, well-written by Stephen King and then well-adapted by JT. And so that, like, that truth, that humor, it's all there. That's what pulls you into the real movie, right? The script was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it was specific. It was hyper-specific, but it was also written in a way that allowed for your personal interpretation as an actor, which I think it's hard to find a script like that. Cooper is great. I don't envy the job that he has. I mean, he has to anchor this whole thing. Him and David, you know, the two of them, they're really the central dynamic of the walk. They're the hub, right? And me and all the other characters, we're the spokes that go out. And yeah, I mean, he's keeping it down day after day. He's always coming. He's always got fantastic energy. I grew up watching the Star Wars movies. First day of school, all the kids in the playground were like, yo, Star Wars. Let's talk about Star Wars. So Mark Hamill essentially was one of my first exposures to an American movie star. So now being in a movie with him, it's insane. It's a dream. I feel like you can't do something like this and not develop heavy bonds with everyone involved. Yeah, I mean, at one point we were out in, like, you know, near the Saskatchewan border, staying in like these like log huts. It was just us. You know, it felt like a weird summer camp where Mark Hamill was also there. It was, I mean, it was, in a way, it was awesome. It's very rare that you get a shooting experience like this where your personal experience is making the thing is so close in a way. Francis is fantastic. He knows what he wants. He knows how to get it. He knows how to communicate what he wants in a way that we get it as quickly as possible so we can go home and sleep and, you know, bathe our feet. And he's just a super nice guy. The way I like to think about it is it's a world where the Great Depression never ended. Right? It's a world where things stayed bad and only got worse. I know in the books, there's allusions to losing the big war and all of that. The movie doesn't really touch on, there's really not any time to, we want to focus on, the walk, but it's a very, very specific vibe, the design of the costumes and the set. The Gum was a last-minute script addition, and I think it's a stroke of genius. A lot of the characters in the movie have some sort of physical object or some sort of just a single idea that they anchor to, that anchors their character. Garrity's got the baseball, Baker's got his cross, and Olsen didn't have anything like that, and then that's what the Gum became. It kind of makes sense. He's a guy whose mouth never stops moving. What makes this movie special for me, this movie is wholly unique in the way that it's made. I've never made a movie like this before, and none of the crew have either. It's the first time. All of the rigs that they built to shoot these scenes were custom made because they didn't exist before. We were sort of inventing how do we do a movie where about 50 people walking the whole time, and watching everyone adapt to that. The crew and the cast was such a great learning experience for me as an actor, as a person working in this industry. And I also love that The Long Walk is a very physical kind of movie, but if you really look at what it is, it's kind of like a play. There's time to develop the humanity of each character and the humanity of the interactions between the characters. So to be able to do that was really cool.
I think it was because of Ray and the character, and I think that he, I feel like I just kind of got at a part of my life that I felt very connected to him. Ray was definitely the reason I wanted to be a part of it. I love Stephen King novels that get adapted into movies. I love The Shining. I watched Stand By Me before doing this, and it felt so kind of, there was stuff that I felt was similar. They're younger, so that plays a part of it, but there's a love, there's a male friendship love that I find to be so nice to watch, and I wanted to do that with this, for sure. Ray loves Pete, and Pete loves Ray, and that they are willing to sacrifice themselves throughout the story to keep them alive, to keep them in their lives. And I think that the best part about this movie is the fact that it is a simulation of life. And it is a simulation of what you go throughout your entire life. Your birth, you start the long walk, and you make friends, and you find loved ones, and you try to keep the people that you want to keep in your life as firmly as possible, and you don't let go. I have a lot of love for the boys that I've been able to work with on this, which meaning the kind of 8 main characters, and Judy is unbelievable. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with Judy Greer. I think that she's so awesome and just brings such a light to the set, because we can so much as actors get so caught up in the darkness and and we all want to be kind of brooding and sulking and this and that, and Judy just comes on, and I mean that in the most love-felt way of she takes me out of myself, and it was so needed, and I think she took all of us out of ourselves, and so she's an unbelievable actor. Mark Hamill's an incredibly talented actor. I haven't really spoken with him much, and or had a lot of intimate scenes, and I'm kind of spending a lot of the time trying to hate him. And it's really hard for me to hate someone who I've seen him talk and hear him talking. He's a very sweet guy. David's my partner in crime. David is a ridiculously talented actor, and he does it with so much empathy, so much compassion, so much kind of selflessness. And I think that David is someone who has a lot of selflessness, and I think that it shows in Pete. We talk about it all the time of the fact that we're making this movie so crazy. That is all on the crew, and they've been doing a great job. And we're asking a lot of them, and it is really hard. And yeah, a movie where you don't stop moving, I don't think has been done before. So that aspect of it has just made this process really exciting, but really difficult. The mechanics of it, and then also just the actual walking, because we've walked over like 300 miles. I mean, he's a great director. He's very smart. He, from the jump, has created a very openly creative and collaborative set and experience in which, when we got our costumes, we picked out our costumes. When we got our props, Francis knows how unpredictable this set can be and how unpredictable this movie can be because of all the things we just talked about, of the camera cars and the rain and the using natural light and all these things, and also just like the physicality. And he listens to us, and we listen to him, and it's an extremely healthy collaborative experience in which he's created. I think the nice thing about having this world be a bit not ambiguous is that it also just allows for you to buy in. You don't question it, and it looks beautiful. And it has a grit to it and an honesty to it. I mean, it's doing half the acting, it feels like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Doug does my makeup, and Zinka does my hair, and yeah, it's effortless what they're doing. It's really kind of awesome, and really, I'm someone who doesn't love to be in a hair and makeup chair, but on this, I told Doug this the first time we started, I was like, I'm gonna give over to you. I'm giving over to you. It's very much helpful to get into the character of sitting in the chair and having your eyes closed and having them put on all the prosthetics and all the, things and bloody your feet. And then when you open your eyes, you're a completely different person. And it's really helpful. So it looks great on screen. That's all been awesome. But I applaud Doug for giving that to me as well. I've never done a movie like this. I've never really explored the feelings that I've had that I think Ray's having. And I think for a long time I was always really scared about it. And I think that what this movie means a lot to me. I hope it shows. It's a moment in my life that I don't think I'll ever forget. That's all you can kind of ask in this life, is that you end something and you feel like you've left it all out on the field.
I think what attracted me to it initially was Francis, for sure. For me personally, the director means so much, especially for film. And knowing that he was doing it really meant a lot. And of course with Stephen King, I've always admired his work, but this in particular, there's a certain kind of existential aspect to the story that I was really personally drawn to, and I do think it just kind of generally highlights trauma and, young men in particular kind of experiencing trauma firsthand as they're growing up and coming of age in a way that I've never kind of read or seen before on screen, I don't think, in the way that Francis ended up wanting to do it. I'm so glad Francis said, I really want you to read for this character, because it made me go back and see that, especially, I think in JT's adaptation of it, there's so much going on with this. The anger and the kind of inner turmoil and torment really is coming from a place of self-loathing and self-harm more than it is, wanting to genuinely hurt others. It kind of opened the door for who this guy is, and I think why I ended up really deeply caring about this guy and genuinely, having fun with him as much as, feeling a deep, deep, deep sense of empathy for his journey in this and where we end up finding him in the end. Francis also, I had really expressed to him early that for me, Dennis Hopper's character in Apocalypse Now had been a big reference for me, just as far as the energy of who Barkovich, I think, is to a degree. I think he was excited about that, so he had this idea to give me this camera that, throughout the film, I'm able to kind of have as somewhat of like a security blanket, but it ended up being like a really powerful tool for me to kind of understand how Barkovich is something that I figured out kind of early on, which is a really sad thought, but I think for Barkovich, this is the most quality time he's had with guys his age, you know, maybe ever. There's almost this kind of giddiness of, even though walking to your death, there's still this brotherhood and this camaraderie that, you know, for I think Barkovich means more than really anything. And, you know, regardless of why, it is the heart of the film. And, you know, these guys, it just felt so natural, like we had been the oldest friends for, you know, yeah, man. I mean, and I think, you know, you of course share special moments with people and experiences like this, but again, I think, you know, for some of these guys, I just really, like, in a deep life way, feel a gratitude for them coming into my life, and just the connections alone mean just so much to me, that's clearly the biggest takeaway for myself. Francis knows what he's doing, man, and I think, you know, yeah, I don't know if he knew we'd all get that close, but I'm really grateful that that's the boat we're in. Most of our characters were coming from, you know, extreme poverty, and that was, you know, a lot of the reasoning that they were even in this position to begin with, and that's, you know, specific to some characters. You are witnessing guys who are kind of on the fringes to a degree, and in different ways and in different parts of the country, but of course that is something that, you know, it exists very much then as it does now, and I think, you know, Francis really grounding that in realism, you know, made for something that feels really kind of chilling and unnerving in a way that, you know, I hope lands with people, but I think it will. I'm just so excited that Francis is adapting it, and I hope we can, you know, honor the source material and honor the films that have come before this in that sense. And it reminds me so much of those characters in Stand By Me, and I trust them so much with that, and I'm really excited to see, as an audience member with the audience. It's going to be a really special experience.
I remember when I caught wind of it, I was like, oh my God, it's Stephen King and Francis Lawrence. I was like, oh my God, this is like a dream come true. Of course, I want to be a part of it. And so the day of the auditioning happens, and I ended up just doing it, the audition tape back in my apartment. And then I find out a few days later, after sending the tape, I get cast. And yeah, it was a pretty exciting casting process. I remember when I was like introduced to like Stephen King films growing up, I was heavily into it. my auntie like put on like Misery, It, Stand By Me, and I'm just naming a few here. And I remember since then, like, I was like cult classics, just watch them every like Saturday night, you know, and just having those moments. I remember like having that creative freedom in the beginning to discover Collie Parker, and yeah, I was excited to see Collie Parker's arc and his journey throughout the whole walk. All of these boys have a chip on their shoulder and they're like, yeah, I can do it. So every year these boys are selected from their own volition, and they go into this walk and they have to walk and outlast each other. And yeah, it's a very messed up contest. I feel like in the beginning, Collie Parker was like not like an outsider, like seeing everything from a bird's eye view before kind of like choosing like the people he wants to like hang out with. He can vet those people, and I felt like those bonds just came naturally as the characters and also the actors. We all spend a lot of time together, so it was good for us actors. And throughout that journey, Collie Parker established friendship, and he was able to trust. Working with David was awesome, especially in moments that we had. I felt there was a lot of special moments that Collie Parker and McVries had, and props to David. Like, I felt very connected with him. I looked up to him. He was a good role model. I loved working with Ben. It was really hard not to laugh, because Collie Parker had to be serious, but there was times where like he would actually make me laugh. I was like, oh my God, this guy. He strikes me like that this character is perfectly cast, that this is Hank Olson. And just even like getting to know Ben as a person, he was really awesome. He's a really quiet, gentle soul, but he was also very creative, and he's strong in his decision making, and I'm very proud to have met him. I just loved working with Francis because he gave us that space to have that creative inspiration for our characters, when to add some improv to a line and to choose our own wardrobe. You don't really get that too much as an actor, to get your own props, yeah, this is what my character would have, and this is what my character would wear, and this is how he would wear it. And I remember getting that creativity, walking into that big warehouse, looking at the props tables and looking at everything about Collie. There's a journal he has these, I chose Twizzlers. I didn't actually ended up eating them, so they all kind of just got wet and melted together throughout the heat. But I remember getting that, and also getting props that were special, that were special for Collie, like his bear necklace, his bear claw. I thought that was really, really awesome that I chose that for that character. I was able to mold him. I got ugly feet, but now I got even uglier feet now. You know what I mean? I remember listening to Garrett, and he did the math, and it got me interested. How many steps did I do? And listened to him, I was like, oh shit, that means I must have did a little bit more steps because he's taller than me. Then that means Ben would have made the most steps. I just ended up doing my own math. I did maybe up to 350 kilometers, so that's 70 to 90 miles. Yeah, so 20,000 steps a day times 33 days. Not just us, but also the film crew, the guy who's walking with the boom all the time, just keeping off of the camera, trying to maintain up with the buggy, and also catching all of our dialogue. It's crazy. Working in Winnipeg was chill. It was pretty cool. What surprised me though was the filming locations, the set design. Everything was so well thought out. It didn't feel like we were filming in Manitoba. It felt like we were filming in the universe of The Long Walk. It felt like it was the United States, parts of Maine. They chose it wisely, and it was amazing of how they were able to do all of that, and we were a part of it, making the art. The correct timing of day, the correct lighting, everything was so, I loved it. I loved being a part of that.
To be in a Stephen King film at all is a dream come true. But also our writer JT, who just did Strange Darling, and also Francis Lawrence attached. It was just three strikes, and it's hell yeah, I want to be part of this. And the role of Stebbins was really attractive to me because of the nature of it, the kind of solitary lone wolf kind of vibe, and to be kind of this mysterious character who kind of keeps to himself, and then we see him powering through and wondering, who is this guy, what is he doing, why is he here? I had read the book before meeting with Francis, and so I got to really dive into it, where I saw that my character was actually a combination of one, Stebbins, and two, this other character who didn't make it into the film named Scrum. Because there are 100 boys in the book and only 50 in the movie, so they took elements of other boys and they kind of combined them into who we see on screen. But Francis really gave us an impressive amount of freedom. And in a way that's daunting, but in a way it gives you, Pandora's box of what you can bring on screen. I remember everybody had this physicality when we were first introduced into the movie. We're all sitting down waiting for the major, Mark Hamill, to show up, and we see, Garrity and McFreeze show up. And we went to the props table, and we were, able to select a bunch of different items for our characters. We were basically able to have carte blanche over what we wanted to do. And I saw this roll of tape, and I was thinking, what if the first time they see my character, I'm taping my foot up, right? Maybe I'm getting prepared, or maybe there's an injury there. The Long Walk is an annual competition to instill work ethic amongst the nation's boys and the factory workers. And so you take one boy from each state in a lottery kind of system, and they come and they compete for one wish, anything you want, and all the money in the world, basically. You are the victor. And the daunting part about this race is that there is no finish line, and there's one man standing. And so whoever can walk the longest is the winner. And you have to remain above 3 miles an hour in order to not get shot. And if you go under 3 miles an hour, you get your ticket. And that's that. Stebbins is a very nuanced character, and in the book as well. And what I really found was that, yes, he is reclusive. Yes, he is a lone wolf. Yes, he's on his own. But that's maybe not for the reason that you expect it to be. I don't necessarily think that he's driven to beat the other boys. I don't think that he wants the other boys to suffer or to die. And I think that Stebbins is withheld because he doesn't want to get attached to these boys who he knows that he has to beat in order to win. I will say Tut Nuot is a newcomer in this industry, and he is one of the greatest actors that I've ever worked with. In between takes, he is who he is, but between action and cut, you see a completely different man. Completely transformative within the accent, within the physicality, and to see him perform in the way that he does is just like so inspiring to me, and to work with him every day has been just a blessing. And same with Ben Wang. I mean, the talent that this kid possesses, and the creativity and the comedy and the quips. I think that we walked 9 miles the first day, 9 or 10 miles in like 100-degree heat the first day we were there. And I will say, yes, all the boys that you see on screen are walking. The boys who have lines are walking, yes. Guess who else is walking? All the background actors who are there, who are showing up every day, putting in the steps. We all have blisters, they all have blisters. Our feet hurt, our backs hurt, everything hurts. We're sunburned, we're sweaty, we're tired, and everybody's putting in the work, as well as our sound team, our AD team, our hair and makeup team, our director team. Every time Francis calls cut, he walks back with us. No matter how far it is, no matter if it's uphill, downhill, whatever, Francis is there walking with us. That meant a lot to me. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into with Manitoba. It's this kind of timeless place, a very untouched Americana farmland kind of vibe, which really serves our story in a very cool way. Like getting to experience kind of like the energy of that space and choosing how to play that on the day, and being able to take in the really cool world building elements that Francis provides. I have walked 251 miles on this movie. That is 400 kilometers. That is equal to walking around the island of Manhattan 7.5 times. And we're not done.
So Francis, obviously during the auditioning process, we met over Zoom, we spoke briefly, but that was still an audition. So we really got down to the material, I think a couple of days after the read-through. We had another Zoom call, and we were, he basically said to me, look, tell me where you're at. What are you getting from Arthur Baker? I explained to him, and we just had this conversation, and it was so fruitful. And the cool thing was, he was like, look, I want to give you guys creative control in terms of decision making and backstory. And I feel like that was really, really special, because on a lot of jobs, you don't have that. The first week of pre-production, we obviously went and did our fittings. Funnily enough as well, with costume, they also allowed us to pick and to fill, our characters' costumes. And that just added another layer of, of creating, a story. Because clothes, you wear, I personally, I feel like what you wear you know, has an effect on your mind and how you view yourself and down to everything, you know. And then we went on to props, and there was like a huge like table full of props, and it was like, yo, just, you know, do your thing. And I was like, what? So I picked out a crucifix, obviously, because Baker's a religious fella. It's just about creating that backstory. Working with everyone, David, Coop, Charlie, you know, Ben, Garrett, everyone was like, for me personally, I walked into it with a mentality that, yo, I'm stepping into this. This is gonna be tough, because obviously the nature of the movie, constantly being on the move, you know, the weather, you know, sometimes the weather would just be acting up, you know, and we have to keep going, you know. And I went into it with a mentality that I'm here, I'm gonna be present, and I wanna learn. You know, I wanna learn, because I feel like acting's a journey. David, you know, we got this little joke. I get like, I feel like I look at him as a big brother, right? Big brother, and I call him uncle sometimes. I'm not sure he likes that, but I call him uncle because I get uncle vibes from him in the best way possible. Yeah, he's great. And then working with Mark Hamill as well, crazy. Like, you know, he's a legend. He's a legend. We're like, yo, Mark Hamill. You know, and then yeah, you know, we get to work with him and be around him, and you know, and he's such a down-to-earth, lovely chap, you know. I knew the singing of My Darling Clementine was gonna happen. So we get in the car, right? We get picked up, and Coop, David, and Charlie are just singing the song. I was like, oh snap, we're doing it today? They were like, yeah, all right. I was like, all right, cool. Let's learn it. So I'm trying to join in and sing, and you know, and I can't get the song for some reason. It's so, it was like, my darling Clementine, my darling. I'm like, yeah, my darling. And I'm trying to like learn the song. I couldn't learn the song. So we get to set. Joshua comes up to me, and Joshua's, he's so polite. He's like, hey bro, he's like, the scene's gonna be really powerful, you know, like, how you feeling? And I turned to him and I'm like, bro, I don't even know the song. I'm trying to learn the song, I can't learn it. And he's like, no man, don't worry. He was like, just feel it. So they roll cameras, and I swear to you, we're walking, obviously we're tired and everything, and we're feeling this emotion, and we're walking. Josh starts singing it. And I felt it. And I was like, oh snap, this is real, you know? And I started singing a song, and I swear to you, it just came. I'm happy that it happened like that, because it added that authenticity. And I feel like that's important to have, especially in a scene like that. I remember Francis hopping out the little buggy after they called cut, and he was happy, man, he was happy.